You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. This week, my guest is New York Rangers legend and Stanley Cup champion, Mike Richter. I will never forget the moment on June 14th, 1994, when the New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup.
The waiting is over. The New York Rangers are the Stanley Cup champions. And this one will last a lifetime.
It was the team's first Stanley Cup championship in 54 years. And I can still remember Rangers announcer Sam Rosen belting out his now iconic call as Game 7 ended. The waiting is over. The New York Rangers are the Stanley Cup champions. And this one will last a lifetime. For me, the memories of that Rangers season sure have. At the time, I was 8 years old and following the Rangers closely. The team had exceptional leaders, gritty veterans, young, dynamic talent, and role players who always found a way to make a big impact. At the center of it all was superstar goaltender Mike Richter, whose extraordinary consistency, acrobatic saves, and timely heroics were just what the Rangers needed. Mike had a 14-year NHL career, is a 3-time NHL All-Star, and won over 300 games. In 2004, the New York Rangers retired Mike's number 35 to the rafters at Madison Square Garden, and no Rangers player will ever wear number 35 again in Mike's honor. Today, Mike is still making big saves, but now in the boardroom. After his NHL career, Mike went on to study at Yale University. He received a degree in ethics, politics, and economics, with a concentration in environmental policy. Since 2015, Mike has served as the president of Brightcore Energy, where he and his team tailor energy sustainability and resiliency solutions for clients in many industries. In our conversation, we explored Mike's extraordinary career on and off the ice. Mike shared many of the mindsets, routines, and processes that made him one of the all-time great goaltenders in hockey history. And we discussed how he applies the same skills today as a business and community leader. Mike even walked me step by step through his famous penalty shot save on Pavel Bure during the Stanley Cup Finals in 1994. This conversation is filled with timeless insight to help you improve your focus, navigate pressure, and perform your best when it counts. The lessons in this one will last a lifetime. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Mike Richter. Mike, it's great to have you. We're going to get into your entire career on the ice, off the ice. You're the president at Brightcore Energy these days. I want to talk all about that. But let's backpedal quite a bit. I want to go back to your childhood. What drew you to hockey? What drew you to the ice? And why goalie?
Good question. I loved all sports. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. So two things influenced me a ton. One, I've got two older brothers that played, and both of them were forwards at the time and needed a goaltender to shoot on. So that was my ability to play with the older guys. And the Philadelphia Flyers at the time were a championship team. They came into the league, I think, in 1968. I was born in 66. They were winning championships in 72, 3, 4, 5 in that area. And that was very, very influential for anybody who was remotely involved in athletics in the Philly area. So you had a bunch of, guys that would follow baseball, and the Phillies were good, and of course the Philadelphia Eagles. But the Flyers came on and really had that kind of blue collar mentality in Philadelphia, the Broad Street Bullies. As much as they would love to be hated from around the league, in Philly they really captured the attention and the work ethic of that town. And in net was a guy named Bernie Perrant. He's Quebecois. He's cool. He now has white hair and a beard. He'd stay there and went fishing all the time and in the summer times, and had this just great way about him. But he's a Hall of Fame goaltender. So that was a guy I idolized. And long way of answering your question, it was a really rich environment to get involved in hockey at that time in Philadelphia.
As it pertains to playing goalie, I ask elite performers all the time, was there a moment when you realized that you might be better at this or have the potential to be better at this than most people? Did it click in one moment?
I was able to play with some of the older guys when I was a kid because they needed goaltenders. Seriously, my brother would have a men's league. He's 8 years older than I. And so at 10 years old, they're like, hey, we just need a target and net, and would chuck you in. And I was able to handle some of the older shots. You're always competitive with my closest brother, who became a goalie too, 3 years older than me. And I'd idolize everything he did, right? If he got new pads, I wanted new pads. They were going to be my pads, hand-me-downs. But you're always, at least I always felt that there is a level of proving yourself again and again and again. And that's a kind of beautiful thing. That's what sports does. And that's what life does a lot is, you accept a challenge, you put yourself out there. You may fail, but you put yourself out on the limb and you start stalling and you see if you can, handle it and get to the next level. And I suppose I enjoyed that. And the weird part about goaltending in particular, it is a game within a game, right? You have this team sport, and it's a really tight group in the locker room of hockey in particular. But as a goaltender, you're also on your own. I mean, I literally roomed by myself. The team may win 10-0, but you have your own game that you're thinking at the time. The game's not over. Are you, I guess, do you have a standard that's high enough to play that game within a game, not just check a box? Hey, we won as a group. Let's go out and have some donuts. Did I play as well as I possibly could, no matter how many goals we scored? Because I can't really control that. I know what I can control, and that's my game within a game.
It's interesting, Mike. I've talked to elite athletes in a lot of different sports, but I'm thinking back now to a conversation I had with Matt Stover, two-time Super Bowl champion, a field goal kicker, and he talked about something very similar. He said, as a place kicker in the NFL, it's similar. There's a difference to your role, and there's a lot of things that you're not involved in and that you can't control. I'm curious, as you think about some of the great teams that you were a part of, how did you, ingratiate yourself to the team, be part of that group and that camaraderie, but also focus on what is a very individualized position?
That is a great question, and you can get it wrong very, very easily, even if you have the right intentions. I think where you have to start from is, how am I going to help the team the most? And that is by doing my job the best, right? I played with the great Mark Messier. He's a Hall of Famer, and he captained, I think, 3 different teams to Stanley Cup victories. And, he always describes a team as a group of puzzle pieces. You have some big pieces, some small pieces, but you need every piece, and they're all not the same. So everybody's got a different job. What I'm maybe relying on you is very different than the job I'm providing. And the minute I start doing your job is the moment that I stop doing my job well. And that's a problem on a team. And when you have complementary skill sets and understanding that division of labor and fulfilling those responsibilities before you do anything else, that is crucial. And for me, how am I going to help a team? By getting my fat backside in front of pucks, saving the puck. I don't score goals. I can give speeches. I can do a lot of things, but that's secondary. Your job is to keep the other team from scoring. So to the extent that I do that well is the extent that I'm helping the team, which is great because that is my personal goal as well. And you can take a personal goal too far. You see goal scorers saying, boy, I scored 50 goals. Aren't I the best? Yeah, but your team lost. You didn't help in the hard areas of the game that's not on the score sheet. And for a goaltender, I can sit there and say, yeah, well, I've got a good goals against average, or it's wins and losses as a group that really matters. And truly, if I'm doing my job as well as I can, I'm going to help that take place because I'm going to just give up less goals. And so for a place kicker, same thing. He better damn well do his job. And that may be cheering for 57 minutes out of 60. But those last 3 minutes, he's relied on to get the last 3 points of the game in order to win the Super Bowl. So players understand that. Other players, they kind of like, oh, the goalie, they're weird, let them be. Even coaches, I have no idea, just keep doing what you're doing. Now, there's a standard, of course, but they tend to allow you to do your own thing. And I think that's where that quirkiness reputation comes from.
Mike, I spent a lot of time as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old watching you play at Madison Square Garden. And the 2 words that I think come to mind when I think about that experience was acrobatic and focus. I was always amazed at the acrobatic nature of your play. It wasn't just that you made the saves. It was almost how you made the saves. It was must see action regardless of the circumstances. And then your focus. You always seemed incredibly focused and in the moment, in the zone, as they say. Was the focus something that has always been a part of you? Is that something that you developed over time? Talk about that for a minute.
I guess a little bit of both. I think in order to be successful in anything, you do have to have the focus, but you probably aren't going to maintain that focus unless you have some level of motivation internally. I cared about this deeply, is what I devoted myself to. And, it almost sounds funny now. I'm 55 years old and I'm 15 years removed from my career. And I had a 15-year career, so I'm out of it as long as I was in it in that regard, which is untrue because I literally played my whole life until about 38 years old. So there's many, many more years before that actually takes place. But as a pro, yeah. Why did it compel me? Because there was a personal challenge there. It's something that I wanted to do. And just on a personal level, I found it so damn compelling to be able to control yourself. And that's ultimately what you're doing. Your toughest enemy is you. And if you can figure out that challenge and understand how to get yourself motivated when you feel sick, when you've had a rough go, when you're on a winning streak and one more win doesn't seem to move the needle at all, but you have enough professionalism to still go out there and do it. That's really interesting to me on a personal level. I took up meditation and a lot of kind of workouts for the mind, if you will, right? We go to the gym, we get stronger. You need stronger shoulders. You do shoulder work. Why do you think you're going to walk out there on the ice or in the boardroom and suddenly have the ability to have discipline and, flexibility emotionally and creativity in the hard times? It's always when you need these things, when things get difficult, if you haven't practiced them. So how do you practice focus? How do you prepare for the pressures that inevitably come from doing something that is hard to do? And you have expectations, and every year that you get better, your expectations rise. So back to your question, the focus was something that I focused on, if you will. I played in high school and college and went to the Olympic team and then signed a contract with the Rangers when I think I was 19 or 20 and played in the minors for a year and a half. And in that time, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, well, I expected to develop in the minors, and it was an excellent experience for me in a lot of ways. But also, you're in the minors because you're not good enough for the pros. And why? What do you need to do? I was strong. I was in shape. Technically, I was very good. I could get better, but between your ears, you really had to get stronger. What happens when you win 3 games in a row? Do you get full of yourself and kind of pull back from your work ethic and then lose the 4th? Because the team needs you, not 3 games in a row, but 4 games in a row. What happens if you run into a skid? You have a bad game, or you have a good game and it's not even your fault, but you lose by 4. Can you handle that? Can you bounce back with your best performance the next night and the next night? And people say this all the time. Consistency is the mark of a champion. And again, in the boardroom, in the schoolroom or on the ice, the playing field, it's one thing to hit a good level once in a while. It's another thing to have consistency. Understand how to bring that out in yourself. And that's what you have to do if you're going to be a great player and a real contributor to anything that matters. And so I read books. I meditated. I focused. Going to practice and working hard is crucial. But are you working hard mentally? Are you putting on that kind of armor that you need when you go into battle in a game? And are you flexing that muscle and getting it stronger so that when the time comes and it's the 7th game in overtime in the Stanley Cup, as you've always envisioned in your driveway, you don't lay an egg. You actually come through and you bring that performance. It may work out, it may not. But did you control what you can control? That's kind of it in a nutshell. And so, yes, I worked on that deeply. And I think now what I have to worry about is I've got that internal discipline. I knew how to apply it to ice hockey. But once you get out of that, I went back to school. Can I apply it to learning? Can I apply it to my new job? Can I apply it to being a manager? Personal discipline is great, but you need to know how to apply it.
Mike, I want to get into all that, what you're doing right now, but a little bit more on the ice and your hockey life. I'm curious, this show is all about little things that add up to make a big impact. And to an average person watching a goaltender, maybe it looks pretty straightforward, but I'm curious. What are some of the little things that you're doing there on the ice we talked about some of the mindsets. What are you cutting down angles? Are you thinking about different things? What are some of the little things going into it that make a big impact?
I think first and foremost, if I told you as a defensive tackle in football, work hard, what do? Well, you say, man, I got this big gorilla across from me, but I'm going to outwork him. I'm scared because he's hitting me a lot, but I'm going to overcome that fear and get through him. I'm going to rush the quarterback. I'm going to make tackles. I'm going to be showing up every play. You, in a sense, hustle. And a lot of it's physical. And I'm not taking away from the mental side of that at all. But as a goaltender, you play a bit more of a passive game. If you told me, Mike, get out there and do your best, well, I can't force them to shoot on me. I can't save the puck harder. I have to react to what they're doing. Now, there's lots and lots that I can influence by how I cut down my angle and all this kind of stuff. But basically, it's almost like playing tennis, but you never get to serve. It's always coming to you and you react to it. And so what does my hustle look like? I teach little kids, I say, your strongest muscle must be between your ears. I can't ask you to go out there and save the puck faster, harder, better. I can only say be more prepared when it comes. And if you think about a 60-minute game, you're thinking about 57 minutes and 30 seconds of waiting and preparing and expecting and being in the right position, all the preparation that comes to saving a puck. But only about 30 seconds, maybe a minute of that 60 minutes, are you actually in the process of saving a puck? It's a 100-mile-an-hour shot, a save. It could be a 5-mile-an-hour shot, a save. You set up for your defense. Now you're waiting for the next one. And what you need to do is almost, you almost need to be a sociopath in the sense that you continue to present yourself in a situation in your own brain that the most important shot in your life is coming next. And I don't want to say you're BSing yourself, but I do know that when the puck's in the other end, I can kind of watch it and relax a little bit. But as soon as they get it on their stick and start coming out of that, I better be prepared, because if I'm sleeping, and there's an example of it this year, a goal was scored in the Stanley Cup playoffs from the far blue line. And guys shoot pucks hard, and if you're not paying attention from a distance, it'll score. And that's my responsibility. So as soon as they start coming out of their zone, I have to set up who's on the ice. I need to know that. What's the situation? Who's on the ice for my team? Is my right winger hurt? Does he have a bad groin and he can't come back and back check? So that's going to be a little bit of a soft spot. All those things need to know going in. But as soon as I make that save, I forget about it and I worry about the present moment. And that is what focus is. So when you talk about like the subtle aspects of the game, there's an interesting kind of component to it, because you are a little bit passive. You're reacting to them so much. But the big thing is setting yourself up in your own brain. And the hardest games you'll see are playing against a highly skilled team with a lot of firepower. And maybe we've come out strong. And for a period and a half, I'm watching a game like you are in the stands. I'm just a participant, but I'm not even touching the puck. I'm just watching. But there's a great player on that team. And suddenly, halfway through a 1-goal game, there's a breakaway on you. You have to be your best against the best. Were you mentally focused? Were you setting up? You might get 10 shots that game, but they might all be point blank, high quality shots that you need to save. And the rest of the time, you're just watching and setting up. What happens when you let in a goal? It might even be a good goal, or it could be the worst puck you ever missed. Are you going to bring 100% effort the next shot, or are you going to be thinking back there? So as soon as the energy that you can bring to bear is leaking away to the past, like, I really should have had that, or why did my defenseman fall down? Hey, I am tired of the coach talking about my poor work ethic. That was somebody, my God, I'm not thinking about the future. And as soon as I start thinking about the future, I'm out of the present. Oh my gosh, we have 5 minutes to go in this game. I'm going to get a shutout. I'm going to get an endorsement. I'm going to be on the Wheaties box. That's what happens in a championship game. You keep telling yourself, this is just like practice. It's just a normal game. It's the 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals. It's not a normal game, and it's very difficult to keep it in your own brain, because you still have to execute the same way. And that's where the discipline comes in. Stay in the present, stay in the present. No matter what happened in the past, no matter what the situation is going in or what the future holds, put all of your energy in this moment. It's the only thing you can control, and it'll take a lifetime to get good at that.
Let's talk about all of your energy in one moment. I want to go back to that famous penalty shot in the Stanley Cup Finals against Pavel Bure. I remember watching that, and I went back this week and I looked at a couple of old YouTube videos. after he touched the puck, you drift way out of the crease, it seemed to me.
Yeah.
What is that? What's happening there? What are some of the little things that are going on there in your mind and physically?
So, good question. On any shot, a player has two major options. They can shoot it past you and score, or they can go around you. They call it a deke, and pretty fundamental. The further back in my net I am, if I stay way back here, you're not going to be able to go around me because I'm kind of, my backside's on the goal line in the net. You can't get around me, but I'm giving up more net. As soon as I come closer to you, as I am on camera, I fill up the net. I'm 5'10". In order to fill the net, I had to literally cut down the angle. I had to bring myself closer to you. And you can demonstrate this with little kids. You literally tie an extension cord on either post and put the apex of that triangle behind the puck and show the kid, when you're back in the net, there's 2 feet on either side of you. When you come out, there may be 2 inches on either side of you. So the further I come out, the more I eliminate a shot. The problem is I'm vulnerable for someone to go around me. You can see in a soccer goalie, if someone has a particular powerful shot, they might come out to be able to handle it. So they don't have to react as far on left and right. I did that on Pavel Bure. The problem with Pavel Bure is he was a superstar and could shoot and score, and he can deke and score. And he was one of the fast, I think at the time, really the fastest human on skates. It was really something to watch. And he got that breakaway because he was so fast that created that penalty shot. And so the danger is, look, I'm eliminating a shot, or I'm reducing the chance of him scoring on me because I'm out on the angle, as they say. But I'm making myself vulnerable for the guy to go around me because he's a fast skater. So I have to match his speed. And they talk about it, I don't know if you can see this, but a critical distance. If you, the forward, are going very fast, you're going to overtake me and go around. If I move back faster than you, now he's got a big scoring angle. So I maintain a critical distance the entire way. As he moves, I match his speed going backwards. He might slow down, I got to slow down. He speeds up, I better speed up. And so for Pav, I came way out, and then I came way back as he did. And had I slipped or not been a particularly fast skater, I'm done. I mean, he would have gone around me and been able to slide in an open cage. So I came out to eliminate the shot and expected, if I have patience, he'll eventually deke, and I stay with him for that. And that is what happened. This guy was a good scorer. And so there wasn't one move that he would rely on. So I had to actually play him very honestly. Some guys are great at shooting, so you really just go, look, he's going to shoot. He doesn't know how to deke, or this guy constantly dekes. I'm just going to stay back and he's going to deke into me. But Pav could do both, so you really had to have those things you couldn't anticipate and guess. And so I like that because you had to take a risk to come out and then match his speed coming back. And it was fun, but I know Pavel, and he's a great player and a great guy. And, he gets asked that question all the time too. What no one talks about is that he had scored a few goals in that series. On shots, on rebounds, he did it all. That was a crucial moment, and it's great because it changes the momentum of the game, either for or against you. So that was my, opportunity to add my little piece of the puzzle to building a win.
I don't think any of us watching will forget that save or that series, Mike. It was certainly one of the most special times in New York and in sports history, I'll say. But you're making big saves now in a different way. You're helping advance some really important initiatives and work around clean energy and efficiency. And that's where I want to move. So after your hockey career, you make the decision to go to Yale. What went into the decision to go back to school, and how did you put that plan together?
Good question, because from a distance, it seems odd. How do you find yourself here? And I can't tell you that I had a perfect plan. I love school, and, there's a window of opportunity that opens in order to play pro, and it doesn't wait for you. And so I knew that my development was best served leaving college after my sophomore year, going to the Olympic team. And then from there, if the Rangers wanted me, and they did, I'd sign a contract. That meant foregoing the last 2 years of my education, something I value a lot. I figured, look, my pro career is starting. It's something I've always, desired to do. I can go back and get an education. And I did that. And it worked out well. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I was going to complete this thing. If for no other reason, I want a sense of completion. I think it's helpful to be a well-rounded person. While I was playing, think about what you do when you're playing. You prepare, you work out, and you have a finite time to work out. A lot of it's resting, preparation mentally, physically, emotionally for the game. But you're on a plane, you're in a hotel, you play a game, hit the repeat button. And so I did a lot of reading, and I was always kind of feeling like what's going on in the world. I bring the New York Times along with me, but I get books, nonfiction, often about the environment and just resource efficiency and where that intersects finance. And you think, well, there's a lot of people, we're making more of them, everybody's using more resources. It's a pretty simple equation that they're going to be at a premium, whether it's water or energy or grain. And you see all of those things happen exactly right now. And it's only going to get more pronounced. Technology is going to help us, but policy helps and the capital markets help. And I'm like, here's this thing, this area that touches every aspect of our life. And, we don't know how to name it. We call it environmentalism, sustainability, and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, look, it's the foundation of our economy, our geopolitical, problems begin and end often there. When Russia turns off the pumps, what happens to Europe? When grain gets stuck in Ukraine, people are starving all over the world. Like, these are big things. And so to the extent that you can be efficient with resources, you're going to have a better quality of life. And, I think it's a pretty important thing. So I can't tell you I've got all the answers, but I've done a lot of reading on it. And when I got out of, my career, the first thing you do is like, my God, I was injured. So it was the decision happened very fast. I fractured my skull and I had a brain trauma. And so you're going to recover. And the doctor says, this is great, but I'm not going to clear you to play. I was not ready to end. And so it was hard for me to even mouth those words because, going back to where we started this conversation, my training and my mind were stronger than ever, but your body in some ways breaks down. You become slower, you become more injury prone, whether you get an acute injury or you just have a series of, twisted ankles or whatnot. And you start to say, hey guy, it's time to hang him up. But I figured I still had a few more years. So mentally, I guess emotionally, it was a big pill to swallow. But that segue that was provided by going back to school was crucial. And when I did that, I got a general, degree, undergrad degree, but I really majored in environmental policy and finance. And that to me was exactly where I wanted to go. And I started out in a private equity shop that was looking for sustainable companies to invest in. This is 2007, 2008, and there wasn't a lot. Elon Musk wasn't there. There's a big need for it, but there wasn't established companies. And so we migrated after the downturn, Wall Street washout. We had done some really good investing, mostly in kind of, I'd say, recycling, electronic waste recyclers and whatnot. I had been pretty good about it, but we started getting into project finance. Why? Because we need to build projects and finance them in order for these things to get up and going. There's good policy out there all the time. There's wrangling on in Washington about this. But people understand you need clean water, you need clean air. You can be conservative or progressive. It doesn't matter. I think where we start to butt heads is what the policy is that helps enact that. But you're going to need government. You need the free market. You're going to need NGOs. And we're getting there. The problems just keep getting bigger. So we're keep chasing. But I mean, in some ways, it's scary as hell to look at the macro trends. But boy, when you look at where we were and where we've gotten to, it's beginning to become a success story. You look at the way EVs are happening now. It's not perfect, but it's amazing, these vehicles. The way buildings are getting more efficient. That's what I'm focusing on now. We primarily underwrite the upgrade of commercial industrial buildings and just make them perform better. So there is a link to my career in a sense that, your whole career is about health and performance based on your body. And part of that is the environment in which you live. I'm in an office space. Do I have proper lighting? Do I have proper ventilation? You really see that with COVID. Is the building sick? Do you get fresh air exchanges? But also, is it efficient with its resources, whether it's water or energy? We primarily look at energy and just go LED lights, solar panels, geothermal heat transfer. These are more efficient ways of providing heating and cooling and light in buildings and energy. And they use less resources and they're cleaner. So, financially, you're better off. Health-wise, you're better off. And performance-wise of the building and the occupants in it, you're better off. And I really, you're not going to get paid to play the game anymore. But I do feel like we're making a difference in the world, and it's fascinating to me. And there's a huge opportunity, and there's a massive, massive important need for it for humanity.
Mike, before I let you go, it's so fascinating to me because to me, just from watching afar and talking to you here a bit, you're bringing the same energy and passion that you brought to hockey to something that's, as you described, related in many ways, but a bit different. I'm curious, when you talked about some of the mindset stuff earlier, is there one thing Maybe it's the mindset like you talked about earlier. Maybe it's something else. Is there one thing that you take from your hockey career, like more than other things, and apply it as a leader, executive, manager, supervisor of people? Is there one thing?
Great question. I would say maybe two things come to mind right away. Number one is, we have spoken about the personal discipline you need in order to apply yourself to the maximum every time you're out there on the ice. I mean, if I'm not giving maximum effort, and that might be different today than it is tomorrow, because today I'm sick and tomorrow I'll feel better, but I'm coming with everything I have, I'll never get to the next level. And you do need to do that in business for sure. And you have to define what that is. That's not ranting and raving. That's also understanding mistakes and setbacks and reapplying yourself. The personal discipline is crucial. But what differs in what I'm doing now from what I was doing then is every bit the challenge and then some. But and I miss playing every day. If I could keep playing, I would keep playing. But what I really feel gratifying about where I am right now is this is kind of crucial for the world. I don't have all the answers, and everybody's going to fight about how we do this politically and all that kind of stuff. But ask anybody, conservative and progressive and Republican, Democrat, and everything in between. You want clean air. You want clean water for your kids. You want quality of life. This is what we're really trying to achieve. And you might come about it different ways, but I think we can all agree on that. It's complete BS that it's a political thing. It's not. How we go about it probably always will be. But the fact is you have to go about it one way or another. And we are. And hopefully we'll keep up with the need. And I would say that aspect of it, that you're doing something that, I could be the best hockey player that's ever walked on this earth. It doesn't make the world necessarily a better place. But if we can help figure out how to have cleaner transportation and more healthy buildings and provide resources for everybody in a more efficient manner, that does move the needle in terms of quality of life and doing something. So you're leaving a mark. So I think that aspect of it is crucial. You need the discipline, but you need an overall vision because, look, this is the second small company that I've started of the same type. I think we've graduated and gotten better each time, but you're going to get so many setbacks. There's so much headwinds. It's just difficult to do. And so sometimes you get up and just go, my God, are we moving sideways or backwards? But the reality is if you keep putting the effort, you will break through and great things will happen. Read anybody from Steve Jobs to Elon Musk. It doesn't happen overnight, and they have to push through some of these barriers. So am I equating my business necessarily to theirs? But I will say if you're going to do something of importance, you better expect that it's not going to be easy.
Mike, there's no question if you could help end that 54-year drought in New York of Stanley Cups, you can accomplish anything. This has been so much fun. I could ask you questions about all of this for hours, but there is no question you are a tart puller, as I like to say on this show. You lead by example, you do your part, and you bring passion and purpose to everything that you're involved in. So thanks for pulling the tarp. Thank you for all those memories back in 1994 and beyond. We'll have to catch up again soon. Thank you, Mike.
I thank you for the opportunity. It was awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, take care. Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tart pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.